Hey guys, so I gave you a sneak peek of this blanket that I was getting ready to work on, and here is the finished product. So this is the lap size throw. So it's 35 by 45, but look at this stitch. This is called the linen stitch. So pretty. If you want to see how I made it, keep watching. Let's make the linen stitch. All right, so I am using the color taupe here, and my foundation chain or starting chain is 35 inches. So you can make it any length that you want. It will probably be easier if you use an odd number of chains. Okay, so the way that I'm gonna start is I'm actually going to flip it over because I want to do the dragon back method to get started. Some people also refer to this as like purling the first row. I just call it the dragon back method. I do use the braided edge method around pretty much all of my blankets rather than adding a border afterward. So that will play into this as well. There are definitely other tutorials that show you how to do it with the straight edge and how to work in the linen stitch for that. All right, so this was our final loop. It'll be my braided edge, so I'm gonna leave it. And what you're gonna do is you're going to go down and you're gonna find these little bumps in the center of your blanket, rather than this is your top loop, this is your bottom loop, and then this is that center dragon back edge. So that is where I'm gonna start. And I just make a regular loop. I like the way that this creates that matching braided edge, is really the main reason that I have started using it pretty recently, actually. So I'm just gonna go all the way down and find that little center bump in my entire chain, and I'll meet you back down here. All right, so we have finished that foundation chain. I think maybe my camera is shaking all around. It's touching the table. Well, that's fantastic. Let me see if I can scoot you back just a smidge. Okay, so I have 21 foundational loops and my first chain that I did the dragon back method. So we're going to get started. Now I am going to skip this first loop because I like that braided edge. So I'm going to come back around, get my working yarn in place. So my first loop, I'm going to bring the yarn in front of it, and I'm going to then place it behind the second loop and pull it through. Now, you're going to want this to be longer, maybe about twice the length as that first loop that you skipped. You also want to make sure that your tension is fairly tight. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go around that next loop behind what would be my fourth. Make it doubly long. In front of the next, behind, and stitch it. So you'll see so far I have my braided edge, my first loop that I did not stitch. I placed the working yarn in front of, behind the second, and I stitched it longer, in front of the third, behind, and stitched the fourth, in front of the fifth, behind, and stitched the sixth, and I'm going to continue that pattern. So this is really just a repeat pattern every other row. In front of and behind, and stitch that. Again, a little longer. So as you're working, it can kind of, you know, look a little bit wonky. You're looking at it like, oh, this cannot be correct. Trust the process. Trust the process. Behind and stitched. In front of, then behind and stitched. In front of. Make sure you don't pull those too tight. I am definitely guilty of that. I typically stitch my blankets fairly tightly and keep my tension pulled tightly, so I can get in the habit of pulling those longer loops out, and then I have a mess. So this really is, it's an easy pattern, very easy for a beginner to do. You certainly have to pay attention. All right, in front of and behind, and in front of, and then I will stitch my braided edge. Something else I have started doing is I have started twisting my first loop, and it helps me get a sharper corner right here. That has nothing to do with the linen stitch, by the way. Just a side note. Okay, now we're going to stitch our first loop. We're going to go in front of that longer loop, and we're going to stitch the little short guy. Let me get this working yarn out of your way so you can see well. And again, our stitch loop, we're going to bring up a little taller. You at least want it to be double. And we'll go in front of and stitch it. In front, behind, and pull it through. Doubly long, make sure you don't lose your little guy. Sometimes it can be helpful to even put a finger in the little short ones just to make sure you don't lose them. and then in front of, behind the next little short one, and stitch it, pull it through. But you can see how this pattern is starting to form. I'm gonna keep going, and I will meet you in a few rows and show you how the pattern really develops. Just remember that this is a repeat pattern every other row. So I stitched this in front of my longer one, behind the little short guy, pulling it through, in front of, behind the little short guy, making sure I don't lose any of these loops as I go, and in front, and behind, and stitch. So another good way to remember is your long loops, you're going in front of, your short loops, you're stitching as you go from row to row. In front, behind the little guy, making sure that you're creating it longer for the next row. Knit the little one. This is my braided edge. Put my working yarn back across. Now I'm going to start what would be my third row. So this is a long one, so I'm going to start by going in front of. All right, I'll do a few rows and I will meet you back up. So I have gone several rows into this pattern, and you can see it just really creates a beautiful linen stitch pattern. I'm at the end of this row and I went in front of this one, so I'm actually going to re-stitch the back of it, and in front of, stitch the smaller one from behind. Again, you just want to be sure that you're not losing your stitches, you're keeping your tension the same, and that every other one, you're pulling it out longer so that on the next row, you can stitch in front of. And then when you're ready to cast off, you'll do that the same as you do any of your other blankets by making the loops larger than the previous ones, so that you can single stitch in between all of those, or really slip stitch them, I guess, in proper crochet terms. This is just another variation that I think brings a lot of texture. Doesn't use a great deal more yarn than the regular knit stitch, probably a little bit, but not a great deal. But it's still a single layer. Another thing I like about this stitch is that the pattern is the same front and back. So just another stitch for you to learn. I hope this has been helpful. Comment down below if you're going to try it, if you have tried it. Share your blankets in the comments. I would love to see what you've done. Thank you so much. Have a great day.